Hey, welcome back everybody to the ARLnow podcast. I'm your host, Lena. If my voice sounds a little different, it's because Lena is actually in Hawaii. This is Vernon, sitting in for Lena's usual role as the MC of this podcast. With me, I have Dan, playing the role of Dan, and Katie, who is taking over my role for talking about some of the stories in ARL Now. So give our audience a nice big hi.
Hey everybody, thanks Vernon.
That's Katie, by the way.
Hey guys, y'all ready to talk news today?
Let's do it! So I am a huge Civil War buff, love Civil War history, and I had no idea about this next one until I read it in ARL Now. Katie, can you tell me a little bit about some of the local Civil War history that made news this week?
Yeah, so this is very cool. This is a story coming out of the newly renovated Arlington Historical Museum. We ran a piece this week about Camp Casey, and what's exciting about this is it's Civil War history, it's Black history. Basically, Camp Casey, it was a Union Army base that was in Arlington. It was located on Columbia Pike, and we think that as many as 6,000 Black soldiers were there when they were in the Civil War.
Yeah, and a lot of the places where they had training for Black soldiers who were mainly recruited from people they're called contrabands that came up to the region from the South and then were recruited into the Union Army once they got here. Some of those in Alexandria, we have Fort Ward, which was a major hub for that. But this one, I hadn't heard of it. I think a lot of people hadn't heard of it, and part of it's because, from what I understand, it kind of went away as soon as the war was done, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think also something that was in the story is that it's not yet marked. I don't think there are any historical markers there quite yet, but it's something that the county is aware of and they might be considering for like a future marker or some kind of historical recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we know exactly where this was here in Arlington?
Yeah. So it was along Columbia Pike and I think South Courthouse Road.
Yeah, so that makes sense. There's a lot of big development that kind of sprung up around there. The Fort Ward in Alexandria has the advantage of being a little bit further removed from places like Old Town. So it made sense that would be preserved a little longer. But yeah, it'd be nice, I think, to get some more recognition there, to get like a plaque or something, at least honoring that. We honor everything else around this region. That seems like one thing we could do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious here. I don't know if either of you guys know, like, what exactly was the role that Arlington played in the Civil War? I got to imagine it was contested territory.
I mean, this area was mostly like farmland. There's not like a lot of like big urban stuff around here at that time, but it was, I mean, you had the Lee estate, obviously, where Arlington National Cemetery is. That was Robert E. Lee's home, and then during the war they converted it into a burial ground for Civil War troops as kind of a little note of anger there towards Robert E. Lee, justifiably, I would say. But yeah, around this area, it was, during the war, you had like little isolated communities, but a lot of training grounds, a lot of military stuff around this area. You Camp Casey. You also had there's a ring of Civil War forts around kind of where the Beltway is today. They kind of ran around the exterior of DC to block it out. It was not too contested territory. Further out in Fairfax, you had things like Mosby's raiders who were attacking enclaves. But in Arlington, at least, it was not too much of a battleground.
I mean, 6,000 troops all training in just one of those camps. And was this exclusively Black soldiers?
I believe this one was exclusively Black soldiers. A lot of times they would keep them separated because you had difficulty with, I think it mentioned in the article, you'd have issues with white soldiers not wanting to salute Black officers and stuff like that. So there was still obviously discrimination inside the Union Army. But yeah, speaking of Columbia Pike, we had our own issues there more recently along Columbia Pike, right, Dan?
Yes, we did. On a very different note. Yeah, we're recording this on Thursday, so last night, Wednesday night / early Thursday morning, there were over a dozen reported break-ins at a single parking garage along Columbia Pike.
Yeah.
At least 19 vehicles that were broken into. Some of them had their windows smashed. I don't know if that was all of them, but anyway, there were like electronics taken, other kinds of valuables taken.
Now, one of the kind of funny things we do, I say funny, one of the kind of funny things about when we do stories like this is I'll see, this happened somewhere and I'm like, oh, I don't really know where that place is. But as soon as I saw the pictures, I was like, oh, I know that place. It's the Giant, right? It's right off of, this is right off Columbia Pike. There's that Penrose shopping center there. I imagine that kind of hits a little different for people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the people who were robbed are probably residents of the apartment building right there, parked overnight. So. I mean, if I can, I guess, give a little PSA, broadly speaking, I mean, do not leave backpacks, unattended in your car, because I've had issues with that in the past, why I say that. when I leave my
really?
car, I like, not to give unsolicited advice to listeners, but I feel like that's sometimes our role as journalists. Throw your
Yeah.
backpack in the trunk. That's my take. Do not leave
Mhm.
that around. Because, yeah, I mean, they just like ransack some of these cars. Like, there's pictures of just, like, people's belongings, like, thrown, like,
Yeah.
across the parking garage. Like, come on. I mean, thieves, they're
That's
not going to,
rude.
like, keep
Yeah.
putting it back in the car, I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, if you're gonna steal, I feel like you can at least be polite enough to like leave some of the stuff around there. You don't have to trash it. Did you say you'd gotten stuff stolen before?
I haven't had anything stolen from my car. There was one time I was covering a news story. I was covering like a 4th of July parade, and I
Oh,
parked and I left my backpack in the car. I wasn't thinking. And I came back and somebody, it seems, had taken like a crowbar and they rammed it up like one of my car doors and were like trying to pry the door open, but then they just gave up. Like they couldn't even be bothered to smash my window. So I did
yeah.
not lose my laptop that day.
Trying to pry open the door when the window is right there seems like you're not dealing with the highest class of criminal here.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of my understanding
Yeah.
of more typical run of the mill
Yeah.
criminal.
Not to give unsolicited advice to listeners, but if you're going to break into a car and you have a crowbar, just go ahead and smash the window. Don't try to pry open the door. Just go ahead and get that window busted down. Check in
So,
here every week for more car stealing tips.
so do we know like anything else about what happened? Was there like camera footage or security footage anywhere? Do we know if anyone's gotten their stuff back? I would assume it's long gone at this point, which is
Yeah, I mean, not that we know yet. I mean, I'm always surprised, like, by people who just are walking around committing crimes in areas with surveillance cameras and they're not wearing a mask. But I haven't heard anything about a possible suspect. The police didn't have any suspects to announce when I asked them.
Well, so Dan, you were the king of bad news this week because you also had a little bit more about the art bus. I believe there was something we mentioned this, talking about this in the newsroom. There was a shooting happening at an art bus, not like gun shooting per se. Was it a BB gun? What was this? What was going
Yeah.
on?
Well, okay, so technically we don't actually know, but yeah, there was
Okay.
another lovely crime item down in South Arlington, which is really representing today. Yeah, there were 2 incidents of somebody shooting projectiles at art buses down on, I think it was South Glebe Road, right near the Alexandria border. Yeah, we believe that they may have been people shooting a BB gun at 2 art buses. So I don't know what people are doing right now. Maybe school needs to get back in session. Maybe I'm just sounding like an old man today.
You're filing a lot of accusations here, real quick. Yeah. Get those kids back in school. Yeah. To be clear to listeners, we have no idea who's doing this. We don't know that they're
Yes.
people, like young kids, but.
Yeah, we don't know, but I mean, like, yeah, this incident, yeah, it was 2 incidents, 2 separate occasions where, yeah, somebody hit like a window on an art bus. Thankfully, there were no passengers in the bus at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Katie, I know you ride the bus around here a lot. You ever experience any incidents like this?
yeah, a proud transit user. Thankfully, no, but I'm upset that someone would feel compelled to do this.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad I'm glad it happened when luckily like no one was there or was hurt.
Yeah.
So it said it caused the window to shatter, from what I'm seeing in the report
Right.
here, right? So
Yeah, could you
it's pretty
imagine, like,
dramatic.
you're sitting there on a bus, like, there were no passengers, but, like, imagine
Right.
you're sitting there on the bus and, like, the window beside you just, I mean, I would think there's a shootout, like a straight up shootout happening.
Yeah. Well, and I know there were no like passengers on there, but the driver was on the bus, so I'm sure that's
Yeah,
shocking in its own right.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awful. Didn't happen
Yeah.
on the dash bus in Alexandria, so 1 point for Alexandria on this one.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know what, Vernon, though, it might have been somebody from Alexandria. It was right near that border.
Well,
I
in that
can't-
case, good shot. That's very impressive to hit a moving target in the window like that. So, another win for Alexandria.
Our dear sweet Arlingtonians would never. It has to be.
Yeah, Arlington would never. Must have been an Alexandria person that came up and broke into the parking garage too. So I'm sure. All right. Well, we've got one last bit of bad news coming your way, Arlingtonians. Katie, you want to tell us a little bit about the unemployment rate? I know that's hit kind of a unfortunate benchmark.
It is, yeah. Well, it looks like unemployment in the county, and this is based on preliminary numbers, is the highest it's been in about 4 years.
Don't like that.
I wonder why.
Right.
It
Yeah.
must be a coincidence.
Right. Well, Doge and the effects of the current administration slashing federal jobs, it's really taking a toll in the DC area, Northern Virginia. It looks like our unemployment rate is at about 3.3% right now, and as
Okay.
opposed to and this was May 2025, and last year at the same time it was 2.2%. Um, and right now it looks like just about over 5,000 folks in Arlington are uh, unemployed.
That's significant. Do we know how high it managed to get during COVID?
I know that these numbers they're paralleling.
Okay.
They
It looks like
parallel
yeah.
what it looks like in COVID.
It looks like it was about 7% during COVID. So yeah, what we're saying, not quite there yet, but obviously, so this is from May, so it could get worse as things go on. So, do you have any idea how long it'll be before we see like the full impact of some of those federal layoffs? I know people were saying that later in the year might be when we find out the full extent. As we're seeing this kind of unfold, is there anything else that we should be watching for as we're looking at these numbers?
I mean, I'll tell you one thing that I'm watching for is like what kind of an impact this is going to have like on Arlington County. Earlier on, when we were first hearing about a lot of these layoffs, something that I was hearing about was like the fact that like these obviously federal jobs are very well paying.
Yeah.
Something that I was hearing from experts is like when you take away a whole bunch of people who are making like 6-figure salaries, like that is going to have a toll on a whole range of industries. And I mean that's what I'm looking to see, at least, is
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, well, maybe not obviously, but I know that like comparatively speaking, maybe 3 point some% unemployment rate isn't that high for most places in this country. Thankfully, we've been kind of blessed in Arlington. But when you suddenly have that many people, out of work, like that's gonna have an effect on the economy, right? Like that's gonna have ripple out effects, I would imagine.
Yeah, speaking of the ripple effects, they kind of fascinating that the statewide figures are also pretty high. That's 3.5% statewide as well. So, I mean, you think about that being concentrated in Northern Virginia, but that's a huge section of the market for Virginia as a whole. It looks like this is the 5th consecutive month of increases in unemployment, too. So, yeah, obviously that's something to watch there. See if that continues over the course of the rest of the year.
Yeah. Do either of you guys know, like, where are these people going? Like, this is maybe just an open question, but like, are they finding jobs here? Are they straight up leaving the area? Like, what are people doing as they're losing these federal jobs?
Well, I mean, I know as some of the market gets tough and as people like lose their jobs, you might find new ways of employment, like, I don't know, breaking into a parking garage, taking valuables out of the vehicles there, that kind of thing.
All right.
Maybe passing your time shooting BBs at the buses. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in all seriousness, I remember a few months ago when all the news of these cuts and slashes started happening. I remember chatting with like a cafe owner, and Dan, you might remember this, who told me that they were just having, like, normally when it comes to job applications, it was really quiet for this particular cafe in Arlington.
Yeah.
And slowly, as the news started to trickle in, people are worrying about being laid off or already being laid off a few months back. They just started getting like dozens and dozens of applications, even though they weren't even seeking new staff members.
Yeah.
And it was a shock. And they were telling me, we've just never seen anything like this before.
The concerns about like flight, leaving Arlington as well. We've seen that on the housing market side, is that the housing prices have kind of stabilized or stagnated in Fairfax. I think Arlington's actually went down for the first time in years. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense that people are leaving Arlington, not necessarily coming to Arlington, although obviously a lot of people are also going to be sticking around. So we'll have to see that as that goes forward. Well, thank you both so much. I know I'm no Lena, but we look forward to having her back next week, and hopefully some brighter news ahead, so we don't just do bad news here at ARL Now.
We had some good news. We had the one good story.
Yeah, the one nice story. If we can get one Civil War story every week, I'll be a happy reporter. So, the first Civil War, nothing new, nothing upcoming on that. So. All right.
Don't start.
We'll see. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody.
All right.
Tune in next week.
All right. Take care.
See you, everybody.